episode 410 of Global from Asia. We're talking about India. I'm walking around in KL. Let's do this.
Welcome to the Global from Asia podcast, where the daunting process of running an international business is broken down into straight-up, actionable advice. And now, your host, Michael Michelini.
Austin, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Malaysia.
Yeah, we're at the Nomad Capitalist Live. I have no video inside,
Beautiful view today.
Amazing, right? Yeah, amazing. I've been to KL like one time before, I think, with my wife. We're considering moving here, but we picked Thailand over Malaysia. But yeah, today's show we're going into India. We had a great webinar, Masterclass with Megla and Marg from indiasourcing.net, and they give us some great value about buying from factories in India and sourcing and logistics. And of course, they have an amazing trip they're doing in October, which would be great if you can make it, support them, and to get some experience on the ground in India. So let's tune into the show. All right, we have Tommy, the sales manager at Cross Better Logistics. How are you, Tommy?
Hi, everyone.
We just got to meet here in Shenzhen, China. It's great. They support the show at Global from Asia, and we also use them ourselves for many of our brands and e-commerce businesses. And Tommy really cares. They always are trying to help us save money. You know, you have some products you keep for us in China. You have some products you keep for us in the U.S. warehouse, and I really appreciate that. And you can talk to this seller, right? You can give them your advice. You work with many Chinese sellers a lot, right? And you can help the sellers understand more.
Yeah, we are very professional for the shipment to USA and Canada. Also, we have warehouse in USA and Canada. We can help our factories, suppliers, sellers for the shipment.
Yes.
Yeah, for the e-commerce business.
Yep, and you even keep stuff in China too. So sometimes if you have the limitations of sending too much to Amazon, you can keep it here in China with Cross Better, or you can send it, of course, to the U.S. warehouse. They have many different options, and they're always trying their best to find out what's the best solution for you. So definitely talk to Tommy, talk to Cross Better, and thank you for your support of the community.
Yes, we have good pricing and better service.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is a very international webinar. People, our stage is full of people from around the world or Asia. And thank you all for tuning in to a Global from Asia webinar. We're going into India sourcing today with my friend Megla and also Margaret from India Sourcing Network. Thank you so much for making it today.
Thank you so much for inviting us, Mike.
Yeah. I mean, India is a hot topic. With Megla, I was actually just chatting to someone yesterday or, last week, and I think maybe they're hopefully getting in contact with you. I mean, more and more people are looking for India, looking for also, other alternatives to mainland China. And I'm really excited for your sharing today. We'll also have time for some Q&A after, but I know you've prepared some slides. But maybe before we get into it, do you want to introduce yourselves a little bit more and then start?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Megla Bharadwaj, and I've been in the Asia sourcing industry for over 20 years. I started my career in India, then went to the Philippines. I was in China for 10 years, and that's where I met Mike.
Yeah.
Then I was in Singapore for 7 years, and then I moved back to India just last year because there's just so much opportunity and there's so much potential in terms of sourcing from India. So we, Mark, Kevin, our third partner, Kevin, and Marg and I, we run India Sourcing Network, and we also run India Sourcing Trip, where we help people source products from India. So that business was growing, and so I thought, okay, let me move back to India to manage the business and to grow it, because this seems like really a once in a lifetime, opportunity to do something that's very different. So here we are now.
Yeah, which part of India are you in?
I'm in Delhi.
Delhi, okay, nice.
Yeah, which is the
That's
capital.
really great.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Marge. Marge. Marge?
Oh, Marg, I usually get, but it doesn't matter. When I was naughty as a child, I got Margaret, so I always
Oh, that's the naughty. I got
it. Yes, no, look, I've actually been selling on Amazon since 2017. I originally started off in China, and sort of my world changed because on the way to Canton Fair, I stumbled across an Indian supplier at one of the fairs in Hong Kong. And from then on, the rest is history. I met Megla, or she called us and said, do I want to come and join her on an India sourcing trip? And, Kevin and I have joined with her and spend lots of time going back and forwards to India and working on India sourcing network and everything else that goes with it. Yeah.
Amazing. So happy to have you here. And so I think you've prepared some great content for us. I don't know if you want to get into that. I'll hang out here too and help if I can.
Absolutely. Let's get started. So we've got some slides. We'll go over these slides for about 30 minutes, and then we've got plenty of time for Q&A as well. So let's get right into it. So the topics that we're going to be covering today is, first of all, why should you consider sourcing from India? Some of the differences between China and India, what types of products you can source, and then we'll also talk about our upcoming sourcing trip to India, which happens in October. So introductions, we've already done this. Let's get straight into the first topic, which is why you should consider sourcing from India. So the number one reason why Amazon e-commerce sellers should consider buying products from India is because there are so many different unique products that are available in India that are not available in other countries. So there are, for example, a ton of handcrafted products that are made in different production hubs. And these handcrafted products are very unique to India because these are skills that have been passed down from one generation to another. And there are skilled artisans that produce these kinds of products. So they mostly use natural materials like wood, glass, metal, marble, those types of products. And what has happened is that there are a lot of these artisans that are based in these cities. But of course, these artisans are not that well educated. They're good at their craft, but they don't really understand how to export and what the trends are in export markets. So there are manufacturers that have set up factories, and they understand, they go to the US and Europe and they exhibit at trade shows and they talk to buyers and they understand what types of products are required in overseas markets. And then they leverage the skills of these artisans to produce those kinds of products that are in demand in the US. So it's sort of, also scalable in that way, because if you just buy products from, say, artisans, maybe that's not scalable, and you need some sort of, professionalism and quality control as well. So these manufacturers, have set up factories and they leverage the skills of these artisans. Another advantage is low MOQs. Now, when you're mostly sourcing from China, the MOQs can be high, but in India, because a lot of these products are handmade, the MOQs are much lower. So typically for these kinds of products, the MOQ ranges from, 200 to 500 pieces. And suppliers also have something that is known as MOV, which is minimum order value. So they can say that, okay, place an order worth, let's say, $5,000, and you can mix and match SKUs, and you can have maybe 4 or 5 different SKUs. And that allows you to test different SKUs without really investing a ton of money in one specific SKU. The third advantage is English speaking. So most suppliers that you deal with will speak English, and that is a big advantage because communication becomes so much easier. You can just pick up the phone, have a conversation with them, get on a WhatsApp call, get on a Zoom call. It just becomes much easier, and there's less that's lost in translation. We also have, there are no tariffs. So if you are importing from the US, importing from China into the US, there are, of course, additional tariffs that are imposed on a lot of different categories, but there are no additional tariffs from India. The normal import duties are about 2 to 8%, and for some garments, they may be higher. But generally, the types of products that Amazon e-commerce sellers are sourcing, the duties range from 2 to 4 to 8% maximum. Eco-friendly products. So if you are in this category, then India is a really good place to source eco-friendly products because there is so much focus on natural materials, sustainability, and producing eco-friendly products. There are a lot of companies that are experimenting with new materials. For example, there are some companies that produce plant-based materials. For example, cactus material or banana fabrics made out of banana fibers. And so these types of innovative materials are, of course, still not mass produced. And so the pricing may be slightly higher than regular products, but there is a niche market for these kinds of, eco-friendly materials. And increasingly, adoption of these kinds of materials is going to increase, in overseas markets for sure. And then there's other materials like jute, cotton. India is really, really very competitive in cotton, especially organic cotton. And we'll show you some of the other eco-friendly materials in subsequent slides as well. Lower labor costs. Now, this is a big advantage, especially if your product is labor intensive, because currently labor costs in India are much lower than they are in China. And I'm just going to move a couple of slides here so that you can see the comparison. So if you see, this is 2010 to 2020. In China, labor costs in 2020 were $360 per month, whereas in India, it's $175 per month. So that's a significant difference over there. So if your product does require labor, work, then it is definitely more advantageous. You can get better prices in India. Of course, that also depends on material availability and, supply chain, and there are a lot of different factors. But in general, you can get better prices. And I'll also show you this one comparison that was done. So this is a labor cost comparison that was done on bags. And so if in China, the production cost was 0, in Vietnam, it was minus 11%, and in India, it was minus 37%. Now, this is done for bags, which is, of course, very labor intensive. It requires cutting and stitching and sewing and, putting on the accessories and all. So these kinds of products are very competitively priced in India. There are a lot of emerging industries as well, for example, electronics and toys. So one of the advantages of, China is that you can practically buy anything and everything. In China, they say it's not a matter of if a product is available, it's a matter of how much is it available for, because they manufacture everything. And China is going to remain the main production hub for the world for quite a few years. But, there are other production hubs, and gradually China is going to, other countries are going to take market share from China for specific categories. So currently for electronics, China is the only production hub. Vietnam is coming up, where a lot of the big companies are setting up factories, and India is coming up as well. There are a lot of, again, bigger MNCs like Samsung, Apple, who have set up factories in India. And gradually the supply chain will grow. And once the supply chain grows and matures, then there are going to be other OEM type manufacturers that produce products like, power banks and headphones and things like that, consumer electronics. So that is an industry that will definitely grow in the next couple of years. Mark, is there anything you want to add over here before we move to the next slide?
No, I think we'll cover the rest of the product and things as we go through. I think you've done fairly well, Regla. You know this.
Okay. Cool. So let's just talk about some of the differences between India and China. So as I said, India mostly does a lot of unique handmade products. Of course, there are other types of products too. There's, apparel. India is huge with apparel. There's leather products, and there's a lot of cosmetics and natural products, natural, herbs, food items, a lot of different products. But handmade products, we've seen Amazon and e-commerce sellers have a lot of success with these types of products. China specializes in mass-produced products generally. Low MOQ in India, higher MOQ in China mostly. More respect for IP. So if you're sourcing from China, you know that it's very hard to protect your designs, right? You can have your NNN agreements and you can do whatever you want to. But if a supplier really likes your product and if there is demand for your product in the market, then sooner or later, your product will be copied by either your supplier or somebody else. And, they will start selling it directly on Amazon. And that's mainly because a lot of suppliers in China are selling directly on Amazon. But in India, currently, most factories that you work with, they would still prefer to do B2B. They would not like to do B2C. And so they're not selling directly on Amazon. So that is one big advantage. And generally, we find that suppliers in India have more respect for buyers' IP. For example, we do a lot of interviews with suppliers in our Facebook group. And they would, when they walk around their showrooms, for example, they would not show us products from their buyers. They would say that, okay, we have removed products from our buyers from the showroom, etc. So generally more respect for IP. Lower labor and production costs, that's something that we talked about. In China, production costs have been increasing over the last couple of years. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of companies, especially companies that make products that are labor intensive, for example, garments, shoes, those types of companies have been moving out from China to other low-cost production hubs, such as Vietnam, Sri Lanka, India. And in fact, the Chinese government themselves, they want China to move up the value chain and produce more high-value products, and they want to let go of the low-end production to other countries. No tariffs when importing from the US, but high tariffs from the US in China. Fewer product categories. Now, this is a con when sourcing from India, whereas in China, you can source anything and everything. In India, there are specific categories, and we'll cover those in a bit over here. Now, it's not very easy to find factories online in India, and that's a challenge. And that's why we have launched all of these services and sourcing trips and our own platform to help people identify suppliers. Whereas in China, most factories are online, especially on Alibaba, and you can just go online, find them. There's Canton Fair that a lot of people visit as well, where there are lots of suppliers that exhibit. But India does have a fair, and we'll talk about that later. But in general, Indian suppliers are not very good at maintaining their online presence. Now, we have a B2B sourcing directory, indiasourcing.net, where you can find vetted suppliers. In fact, Alibaba and Global Sources, which are the other two main export-focused directories, they also have suppliers from India on their platforms. But of course, they're very few. 90% of the suppliers on their platforms are Chinese. So if you do want to search for Indian suppliers on those platforms, you can do a search and then use the country location filter to find suppliers from there. There's not much information available online about how to source from India. So, we're really the only group out there talking about sourcing from India because it's just so, new and people have not ventured into India yet. So there's not a lot of information available. Whereas, for China, there's so many blogs and tutorials and experts that really talk about sourcing from China. So that is an advantage, I feel, for the more bolder people out there, bolder entrepreneurs who would want to go travel to India or try to source products from India. Not everybody knows how to source products from India. So the people in this room are the ones who have an advantage over everybody else who's not in this room. Mark, do you want to add anything over here?
Look, I just think until we show people the products, the products are just so different and so unique. Like I remember being at Canton and you walking down an aisle and there's just the same product for a whole row. Whereas when you get to the Delhi Fair, which we do on our trip, virtually every stall is different. It might be a plant pot, but it's made out of different material, different spins on it. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is that it doesn't matter what you go to make. Nearly every factory has a different look, but just the way they produce it. And that is, I think, so good to have something that you don't get copied. And I can say even I've been selling the same products on Amazon for 7 years and I virtually have got nobody selling identically what I sell. They sell the same types of products, but it doesn't look the same. So I think that's, a great advantage that you stand out as unique.
Okay, let's go to the next section. Okay, we're going to be talking about products. All right, Mark, this is over to you.
Okay, yep, no problem. So, we actually decided at the Delhi Fair to call a lot of products Amazonable because we find a lot of products are probably not ideal for Amazon that we see at the fair, the bigger furniture and things like that. So the main things I think that help Amazon sellers would be the home decor and gift section. And there are some fantastic products. They're made out of metal, wood, ceramic, jute, cotton and glass. And what they also do really well in all these is a lot of mixed materials in the product. So you might get a wooden tray that's got perhaps a resin section down the middle. It might have, the timber on each side, and then it's got some really beautifully handcrafted wooden metal handles or something like that. So you get a lot of really good mixed materials because it's not so mass produced. You get a bigger variety in the products. There's a lot of kitchen and tableware as well. Furniture. Now there is some really beautiful large, if you want to do furniture for, not off Amazon type products onto, into a retail or something like that. There are some fantastic, beautiful handcrafted furniture pieces. There's a lot of soft furnishings like cushion covers, rugs, things like that. Pet products are really big, and they're made like bowls, bedding toys, and you get things made out of wood, out of resin, out of metal. So there's quite a variety of pet products. Fashion jewelry, the amount of jewelry accessories are beautiful, a lot of precious stones, and a lot of, once again, very unique and different products. And footwear, you get a lot of like sports shoes as well as just normal leather type shoes coming out of India. That's a really big area. Textiles and apparel, as Megla said, they're very big on cotton, and organic cotton is huge in India. And you also get things that are made out of denim, wool and silk. We've got the organic cotton there, and there's a lot of eco-friendly products now. As well as the products themselves being eco-friendly, you find a lot of the factories actually have solar panels or, produce different ways of producing the products to make them more sustainable. Leather, there is really nice leather. I think the leather you can get there, you can get either leather for things like equestrian type products, which is a harder leather, or you can get some beautiful soft leather that would make lovely wallets and bags and things like that. And they're very big on superfoods. There's tea, coffee and spices, and there's a lot of big plantations. If you're really adventurous, you can go off out of Delhi and go and see a coffee or a tea plantation, which we've had on our bucket list, but we haven't got there yet. We need a few more trips to India to get through everything we want to do. Next slide, Megla. Okay, as you can see here, these are some of the beautiful fabrics that you can have made. Now, there are things like block printing. You get hand loom products, some jacquard, and my favourite one is the one in the middle at the bottom. I think that is just so stunning. It's just so different. They're not products that you're going to see anywhere else, I don't think, in the world. So I think if you want something unique in the material, but of course something you've got to bear in mind, if you start producing these types of prints, quite often there is a large MOQ because of the uniqueness of them, depending on which choose. If it's block printing, it's not so bad, but if it's something that is a little bit more intensive, it may take a little bit more of an MOQ with those. Next slide, please, Megla. I'll hand this one over to you, Megla, because she knows her districts much better and can say the words better than I can.
Right. So this is a map that shows all of the different types of fabrics that are available in India. And as you can see, each state really specializes in a different technique, a different type of fabric. And this is very unique to India. And if you're creative, you can use these fabrics on different types of products. And of course, the prints, over here, you'll see there are more Asian, Indian kind of prints, but you can customize the fabrics, you can customize the prints to whatever is, popular in your specific market. So just to give you some examples here, in West India, there's a lot of tie and dye, there's mirror work that's done on certain fabrics over here. In the North, there's embroidery. So this is called chikankari, and it's mostly done on very light colored cotton fabrics, and the embroidery is done in white thread. So this is a very unique thing in India. And you can usually, this is used for apparel and Indian wear, but you can also use this for, shirts or, dresses. It looks really beautiful as well. In the North over here at the top in Kashmir, there's mostly woolen items. There's shawls. Pashmina, of course, is very popular from here. And there are other types of, shawls and woolen items. In the South, it's mostly silk. So typically, most of the products made in the South are saris or other types of silk materials, but you can also do, silk bed sheets, silk fabrics for dresses or other types of apparel. And then in the Northeast, there's also different types of very unique fabrics that have, different unique designs. So there's a lot of variety available in terms of the fabrics. And many of these fabrics are hand woven. So that is also a uniqueness, that is, a unique aspect of these textiles, because, of course, there are machine made and they're digitally printed as well. But some of the more handloom kind of materials, they are very unique. And they're also lower MOQs if you source these handloom products as compared to machine made or mill textiles. Marg, over to you.
Okay, yep. Now, this is probably one of our favourite product lines, I think, is the eco-friendly products. And you'll see these are like sustainable materials, and they're made of cork. The one on the left with the hand on it, that's actually a wallet made out of cork with some printing on it. And Megla can attest to that. She has actually got a bag and a wallet made out of that. She's in love with it, and it's absolutely beautiful and is wearing really well. And there's also like pineapple fibres, cactus leather, and like gets the one on the top with the marble finish, that's actually cork as well without any printing on it. So you can see these are something that's completely different that you won't find in a lot of places. And obviously these are a little bit more high-end cost. They're not what you're going to, pick up really cheaply, but they are beautiful and something if you want to start a completely different line and in the eco-friendly, it's the way to go instead of using like faux leather or something like that. Next slide, please, Megla. Now, these are some more eco-friendly products, which are obviously, with the way the world's moving, becoming more and more popular. So there's areca leaves or sugarcane waste disposable dinner plates. And obviously now people are moving into, with the cutlery and things like that, it's becoming more popular with restaurants banning plastic cutlery and things. So there's a lot of opportunity if you're looking for eco-friendly products to get those from India. Next slide. Okay, these are rugs. Now, what it is, if you see on the left-hand slide, you'll see all the actual plastic bottles with their lids still on them, and they are actually made into rugs, or they're made into a fibre first, and then the rugs or the bags are actually woven. So that aquary mat you see in the middle, it's, when you think of it being made out of plastic, you expect it to be really hard and tough, but they are actually very soft, and you really wouldn't know that they're made out of plastic. And they also do lots of bags and other products from the PET bottles. There's also some beautiful jute bags there, and you'll see there also there's a factory with all the solar panels on the roof, and that's where they're producing organic cotton in those factories. Next slide, please, Megla. Metal products. Now, there's just so many amazing and different styles of metal products that I think I've seen anywhere. You'll see there's some wall decor there on the left. There's vases, serving plates. There's a lot of urns. They're a very popular item from India, is in both wood and in the metal. You'll find a lot of great urns with some beautiful designs on them. There's a lot of flatware and tableware, all made out of metal. And I think there's a lot of hand-beaten copper and sort of things like that made out of the metal as well. So there's just so many different products in metal that, I could go on forever how many beautiful products there are to see. So I think until you get there and go around the fair, you can't really even imagine, and you'd never see what's available online. So next slide, please, Megla. Now, wooden products. Wooden in India, you get mainly, the two most popular are acacia wood or mango wood. Now, mango wood is something that is traditionally from India, made from mango trees. So that's, once again, a very sustainable product, because instead of, killing trees that have been growing for 100 years, mango trees only have a lifespan of about 15 years. Once they stop producing the fruit, then the trees are used to actually make the mango wood. And that's the photo virtually in the middle, and you'll see it's slightly different. It's more, I suppose, lighter with some different colour grains in the, Megla's pointing to it there now, whereas the one on the right is the acacia wood, and that's actually a mixed material there. That's a tray done with resin as well, or the handle on the knife. And then as well, you just can get so many things made out of wood. Once again, because a lot of it's handmade, it's all very different and very unique. And I think you'll find there's so many products made out of wood that you won't see in China. The only thing you don't get is a bamboo like you do from China, the engineered bamboo. That's not very prevalent in India at all. Next slide. Pet products. Now, there's some amazing little toys and things there in the photo. You can get a lot of pet beds, carry bags for dogs, and different things. And you'll see at the top there, that's actually, they're resin bowls on the top that are a very different product once again, as well as there's a lot of wooden bowls, a lot of bowls done on stands in that type of thing, or all metal. So they come in all different materials, all their pet products. Next slide, please, Megla. So macrame, now this is, I think, it's having a resurgence. I can't believe how popular the macrame is. When we were at the fair back in March, there was new stalls just doing lots and lots of macrame in all different designs, in wall hangings, all types of products, bags, a lot of macrame bags, a lot of hanging baskets, and all different things. So I think macrame, I thought, was on its way out, but it's obviously still very popular and in demand. So, or the suppliers wouldn't be having complete showrooms of just macrame products. Next stall.
I also want to add over here that, for macrame products, a lot of these products are made by women in their houses in smaller villages. So if you are producing these kinds of products, there's also a story that you can add to your brand. You can take pictures of these women working, and it's also, empowering and giving livelihood to these women. So that adds more value to your brand. And that's a nice story that you can weave around your brand to differentiate from all of the others.
Yeah, and I think too, as well as the macrame, the women do a lot of weaving and with rattan and things like that. They make a lot of baskets and planters and things like that. So, yeah, the products that are produced in those industrial sort of home type situations, there is quite a lot of different products come out. Now, furnishings, you can see there on the right, we've got some absolutely magnificent cushions, and look, there are so many different looks. You get things with beading on them, all different satins. There's a lot of crochet, a lot of even macrame made into cushions. So the amount of cushion covers are amazing. Down on the bottom right-hand side, that's an area rug made out of recycled fabric. That's made out of the PET bottles, which is really different. Some fantastic bath mats of all different shapes and sizes and materials. And on the left, we have Koya mats, which are made actually down south of in India, and they're made by, there's a company called Coco Tuft, and they're actually one of the biggest suppliers of Koya mats for IKEA. So yeah, so I think you'll find that that's something that's different, and they actually do like drop ship them. If you wanted to set yourself up and have them shipped from India, they have a service where you can actually do that as well, and they can be customized and sent out within a day or so. So that's something different if people want to get into, not ordering a big supply. Go for it. Next one.
Okay. So that's the end of our presentation. And we just wanted to quickly talk a little bit about what we do in the Sourcing Network, and then we'll take on questions. So there are three ways that we can help you source products from India. One is DIY sourcing. So you can go to our website, indiasourcing.net, search for any suppliers or any products, and then contact any of the suppliers directly. There's no fee for using this service. All of the suppliers are manufacturers and exporters, and we have vetted them to make sure that they are legitimate companies and they're their own factories, and they are exporters, they're export experienced. It's very important when you're sourcing from India to source from export experienced companies. Then we also have a done for you service. In case you want us to source the product, source any product for you, we can manage the entire sourcing process from beginning to end. And we charge 10% of order value for this service. We've also tied up with a company called Expo Bazaar, and this is for buying in smaller quantities, ready products, ready to sell products that are stocked in the US. So if you are based in the US and you want to sell on Amazon, you can check out this website, expobazaar.com. Use the code EBISN5 for lifetime 5% off on all of the products. And you can buy very small quantities like, 2 pieces, 4 pieces, 10 pieces of different products and sell them either on your own website or send to Amazon. There's, of course, no customization possible. I mean, you can send the products to a 3PL or maybe to your own home and then stick stickers on them if you want to. But there's no customization in terms of branding, for these products. If you want customization, then use either the DIY sourcing option or the done for you sourcing option. And then lastly, we want to talk about India sourcing trip that we are so excited about. And I see that Christine is here as well. Now, Christine joined us for the October 2022 trip, and she's coming back on the next trip, which is happening 10th to the 17th. And awesome. Christine, thank you so much for putting the dates in the chat over here.
Great questions. That's great.
Yeah. So real quick, Mike, we'll get to Q&A. So about India sourcing trip, this is an 8-day sourcing trip where we focus on three aspects. One is learning. So we help you learn all about sourcing from India. And we do that in a few ways. We have a full day conference where we invite various experts that specialize in, sourcing, logistics, quality control. And this time we've got some very interesting sessions. And Christine, you'll be happy to know that we're not repeating any of the content that we did last year. So for example, we've got a live workshop, a QC workshop that we're going to be doing, and where we've invited a QC expert, and they're going to actually show you how to inspect different products. They're going to go step by step and say that, okay, this is a product, this is the first thing that you have to check, and how to actually inspect products. So that's going to be very helpful in terms of managing quality control for you. There'll be a lot of panel discussions where you're going to be able to ask experts questions, and there will also be case studies of people who are already sourcing products from India that you can learn from. So there's this one-day conference that is held. And then we also have invited a lot of different experts. There are sourcing experts, e-commerce experts that are going to be traveling with the group, and they're going to be helping you, identify products in case that is something that you need help with, or anything else that you need help with. So if you go to the website indiasourcingtrip.com, you can see the list of all of the different experts that are traveling with the group. I think there are about 15 or so of them now. But we've got Mike Jackness, Dave Bryan from Ecom Crew. We've got Sean Hart. We've got Divir Cohen from Israel, who's been into e-commerce for the last 20 years. He's been sourcing from India for 5 years, and he will share his own learnings. And then we've got Ritu Java, who does PPC, and a lot of different sourcing and logistics experts. That's the learning part. Then the second part is, of course, I should also mention we have mastermind sessions in the evening. So we go to the trade show in the mornings, and then the evenings we come back, and then we do some mastermind sessions to help you process all of the information that you've gathered at the fair. And then, of course, the sourcing aspect of it. So we visit a trade show for 3 days. It's called the Delhi Fair. It's got about 3,500 exhibitors, and all of these exhibitors are export focused because the exhibition is organized by Export Promotion Council of Handicrafts. And, beautiful products, really good variety. And oh my God, Daisy's here too. Daisy, yes, we're gonna miss you. Daisy was with us on the previous trip in 2022, and she was gonna come this time, but unfortunately she had to cancel because of some issues. Okay, and then so that's the sourcing bit of it. And then we also have, sourcing. We also showcase some products at the conference. So in case you want to, start sourcing even before you go to the fair, you can do that too. And then the third aspect is cultural experience. So India is, of course, a very, it has a lot of history and culture. So we want you to experience that. We do a one-day trip to Taj Mahal, and we do Bollywood night. That is one of our very fun nights where we get to dress up in Indian attire, and there's live music and a live dance troupe, and everybody just dances, and you can sort of let your hair down. So that's a very fun night and a very unique experience as well. And then we manage everything from the time you set your foot out of the airport. So all you need to do is arrive at Delhi airport, and from there on, everything is taken care of for you, including airport transfers, transportation, food, SIM cards, all meals. We also have cocktails on some nights, and we stay in a 5-star hotel, which is near the venue, and very comfortable 5-star hotel. Of course, they have a lovely breakfast buffet as well. So that's quite amazing. We put a lot of effort into selecting the food menu as well, because we want you to experience all of the different types of cuisines that are available in India, but at the same time, we don't want to overdo it. So, too much curry won't be too good for you as well. So we make sure that there's some different options available for everyone at all meals. So that's something that I really focus on. And then we also sponsor one underprivileged child for each person that joins the trip. So we pay for their, education for a year. And I mean, not their entire education, but we donate $100 towards the education of one underprivileged child. And you can also visit the school that, where we sponsored these kids. Mark, is there anything you want to add over here?
We didn't do the additional factory out, did we? You didn't do the...
Oh, yeah, I didn't do that. So we also have additional factory visits. So from October 17th to 19th, we can either go to Jaipur, which is a city about 4.5, 5 hours from Delhi by road, where we're going to be visiting some factories that do block printing, jewelry, small wooden items, and a couple of other things. And we can customize these factory visits for you. So if you say that, hey, I don't want to visit these factories, but I want to go somewhere else, we can arrange that for you as well. So you don't have to go with the entire group to the factories that we're going to. And then the other group is going to Moradabad. That's where all of the metal and wooden products are manufactured. So you can choose between the two cities that that you want to go to. I should also quickly mention that right before India Sourcing Trip, we are doing an e-commerce conference called Ecom India Summit. So if you just come in 2 days earlier, you can attend that conference for free. And it is basically, we've invited a lot of experts from overseas and India as well to talk about how to sell globally online, specifically focused on Amazon and Shopify. And we also have Shopify and Amazon and eBay and PayPal who are going to be at the conference. So that's just a value addition that that is available to you if you join India Sourcing Trip. So in terms of pricing, this is the pricing: 4,500 for room sharing, 5,000 for single room in the hotel. And as I said, it includes everything. So you don't have to take out your wallet when you come to India, except for, of course, if you want to buy gifts or room service, etc. And if you use the code GFA, there's a $300 discount. So you can get more information about the trip at indiasourcingtrip.com. And we look forward to seeing you in India. This is our group in October 2022, and Daisy and Christine are somewhere over here. Cool. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can reach out to us at info@indiasourcing.net as well.
Great. Exciting.
Okay, let me stop sharing. Cool. And Mike, we have to bring you to India now.
Yeah, I have to make it. I have bought from India a long time ago, honestly, metal, stainless steel for another brand I did really long time.
Okay.
And it was an amazing experience. But yeah, I have still to go. It's on my list for sure.
Yes, let's make it happen next year.
For sure. Yeah, we have 2 questions in the Q&A tab. Actually, Christine asked, "Hi, everyone. I could put on stage. Is shipping generally cheaper or more expensive than China?"
So Mark, do you want to answer that? We just got some codes.
Yeah, no, look, it's not really any more expensive than China. You'll find at the moment, I actually just got some updated rates today, and a full container, 40-foot container, is about $1,850 from Mumbai to New York. And LCL works out to, it depends. If you've got, say, 10 cubic meters, it's about, I think, $70 a cubic meter, plus there's about $700 in fees that go on top of that. So I think you'll find that it's very sort of competitive with China. And the time frame, for those who are wondering, it takes about 22 days from port to port. So, and you usually don't ship into California at all if you're shipping from India, because we actually go up through the Panama Canal to New York, so it makes it much quicker. And then the other bonus is that, especially around Q4, when everyone from China is shipping into California, New York doesn't have quite as much congestion at the port. When people were waiting 8 weeks to get containers unloaded, ours was still going through very quickly. So I think you find that it's not much different than sort of shipping from China. And we do also have now a small shipment service. So if you've just got 1 or 2 cubic meters, we have a sort of consolidated shipment service that we're starting up that will go direct from sort of Mumbai to New York, and you can just send 1 cubic meter, and it's not going to have the cost of doing LCL attached to it because it's all consolidated. So that works out very cheap. If you're doing under about 4 cubic meters, that is the way to go instead of doing LCL.
Okay. Wow. A lot of exciting info with that. This consolidated service sounds great too. Okay. Second and final question is India. I think you answered that, Megla, but this came in before. But I think you actually said you can get like 100-piece MOQ on certain products, right? Which is usually less in China.
Yes, definitely. And this is, of course, for certain categories. So, for example, handcrafted, handmade products, metal, wooden, leather. I mean, most products that Amazon e-commerce sellers would source, the MOQs are pretty low. Higher MOQs would be on things like, customized textiles, for example. If you wanted to customize prints on specific textiles, then that would be 3,000 meters or something like that. If you want to do, for example, some plastic injection parts, I mean, there are some plastic injection factories in India as well, although China is generally considered better and more competitive for plastic injection. But for those, the MOQs might be higher. If you're doing certain types of toys, for example, that again require customized fabrics, that's going to be more expensive. If you're using general fabrics that are available in the market, general prints, then the MOQs are typically lower. But things like metal, wood, leather, glass, ceramic, the MOQs are pretty low, and they are very, very small business friendly. And a lot of the suppliers in India are actually family owned. So that's another thing that, we like. And in China, we find that a lot of the suppliers are very transactional, and they're like, okay, here's my money, give me the money. And that's the end of it. Of course, guanxi and all of that is very important. But in India, relationships are even more important. And I think Mark will tell you that her supplier, they're a family-owned business as well. And Mark, tell them about how you went to their house for dinner.
Yes, look, I think, well, I actually met them in Hong Kong, and we just sort of started talking, and like, you just know you can trust them, and they were just lovely people. And then they said, oh, you've got to come over to the factory and visit us. And so we actually went over to India and went to Moradabad, and they sort of took us to their home for dinner every night and picked us up for lunch and treated us like royalty, and then took us up to the third floor of their magnificent home and said, next time you come back, you're not ever staying in a hotel. Here's your apartment. When you come back, you've got to stay with us. So I think, that's really good. But something I'll add on to this small MOQ is I find the MOV works well, and that's how I started, because when I met the suppliers, I was like a kid in a candy store. I walked past this stall and I went, oh, I've never seen products like this in my life. And I was just amazed. And I'm sort of going, oh, I don't know which to have, this, or this. And they said, look, if you spend $8,000 with us, you can take, 8 different products. So I actually started off doing, like, I suppose, a test of all the different products that I liked. I picked out 8. And I could just get, a few, like 100 of each of those with that to test the market. And funnily enough, I've still got those same products, and I've added a couple to my range. So I didn't end up doing a test, because I found, because I was using the same material and the same look, even though they're all different products, I've been able to, some sell better than others, obviously, but then people will buy 2 or 3 of that range. So I quite often sell, and I think even today I had 2 sales, and one person bought 3 and one person bought 2 of my products. So that way you can sort of sell yourself without having to pay for so much PPC, because people will buy, an extra couple of products. So I think that is something really good. And I mean, you'd never do that in China. I know, when we were working with China, it had to be, 1,000 pieces and 2,000 boxes. And I've still got boxes in China 8 years later that I never used, because they made me produce all these boxes, where, I mean, I can just produce a small, even my packaging now that I've got, once you get the relationship with the supplier, they will do, just 200 of each different size packaging, and it's all customized, and I have my brand on it and everything. So I think they're the advantages of using India, is that they're a lot more accommodating, and they will work with you because they want you to be successful. It's not like it's just a transaction. I think in China, you hit the button, if they get your business, they get it, too bad, the next man's knocking on the door. Whereas I think India want to really work with you and develop with you. And I think that's something that you've got to impress on them, that, you want to scale and grow and work with them. And then at that point, you can go back and get better pricing. Once you've sort of done your first order and you know where you're going, is the time to negotiate with the Indian suppliers. And because they speak English and you can jump on a Zoom call, they use WhatsApp, it's a lot easier to deal with them than trying to deal with Chinese suppliers.
Great. Thank you for all that. Diane snuck in a little question in the chat, but I'll pop it up here. How about shipping, logistics management, and QC from India? Seems maybe she's heard or had a bad experience.
So in terms of logistics, shipping and logistics management, it's always best to work with, a freight forwarder. Like in China, a lot of times the supplier themselves would manage the shipping for you. But in India, we don't recommend that. I mean, find a reliable, freight forwarder. And we do have one in our network that we recommend. And we've been working with them for 4 years now. and we haven't had, any issues as such. They're very responsive, they're very efficient, and they're also customs brokers in the US. So that's an advantage. They, ship the product from India, they manage all of the logistics and everything, and they can also clear customs in the US. So you've got to find the right freight forwarder, and they also understand FBA. That's important. So if you are shipping to FBA directly, not all freight forwarders will understand that. So, it's important to vet your freight forwarder as well, just as you vet your suppliers. Now, in terms of quality and QC, so there are good suppliers and there are bad suppliers everywhere. And I feel that you just need to find the supplier that's right for you. You need to understand their capabilities and their, what they are able to achieve. And sometimes what happens in India and China as well, in Asia, suppliers would generally say that, yes, we can do it. Yes, we can do it. Not a problem. We can do it, because they do want to try to do it. They want to please you and they want to get your business. But to some extent, that's a cultural thing. We can't change that. It happens in China too, and in India as well. So you've got to try and determine if the supplier is actually capable of producing the product that you're really looking for. Ask them questions about what types of products they have done. Have they done anything similar in the past? What types of buyers do they have? What types of machinery do they have? Where do they source their raw materials or their components from? And all of that will give you an idea of whether or not they'll be able to produce the product that you have. And again, as I said, there are suppliers that focus on the domestic market, because the domestic market is huge. There are 1.4 billion people in India, so there's a lot of demand for products here. And so there are hundreds and thousands of suppliers that produce for the domestic market, but they have no idea about exports. They don't even have export licenses. They don't know what types of quality requirements there are for export markets. So you've got to find the right supplier and source from export experienced companies. Usually when you do a search in Google, one of the websites that will come up is IndiaMart. And so we always tell people to avoid IndiaMart, because most of the suppliers on that website are domestic focused. Even the prices are in Indian rupees. So go to a website like ours, indiasourcing.net or Alibaba or Global Sources. Those are export focused websites. Even on Alibaba and Global Sources, there may be trading companies or middlemen that are listed on those websites. We avoid middlemen where we have only manufacturers. So Diane, I'm not sure what your experience has been, and I'd be happy to talk about this, in person after the webinar if you want to reach out. And if you have sourced in the past, we can maybe help you, source again if that's something that you're interested in, and we can manage the sourcing process for you, and hopefully you'll be able to change your mind.
Yeah, Diane's great. She's been in our.
Sorry, a bit dark here. I'm turning on the light.
I think I think we're at the hour mark. I think I think we covered most of the questions, and this is really great. I do got another person in chat. He couldn't make it. He's asking about lint rollers. Very specific. I don't know. He has to go to the fair, but unless taking off hair off your.
Yeah. No, I think that's a China product. Yeah. That's more China. You'll get better prices and better, because it's all plastic injection and everything. Yeah, that's China.
Okay. Thanks,
or maybe Vietnam. Like we also source in Vietnam. But then Vietnam's the MLQs are higher in Vietnam, such products.
Okay. Sure, I'll talk to you after. Okay, so in indiasourcingtrip.com, yeah, definitely take advantage of that. And there's a little coupon for everybody here for GFA, and I'm glad we had made this happen. Thank you, Meghala and Mark. Thanks, really great to connect with you. It's a pleasure, and October will be really exciting.
Looking forward to it. We're counting down.
Yeah, sure.
The countdown has begun. Yeah, thank you so much, Mike, and I look forward to hopefully having you in India next year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And thank you to our sponsor, our returning sponsor, Mercury.com, online bank. Well, it's a real bank, but you can do it totally online for US. Our Blimp program participants are going through this as well. Thank you, Mercury. Travis is great there. He's been on our shows, been in our events. We're going to have another event where we will have them attending as well. And if you want to get a little bonus for you and us, if you sign up and do some special circumstances, you can go to globalfromasia.com/Mercury. I also have a video tutorial that we use even for the Blimp people. I use the same exact video to learn how to use it. I hope you can check it out. Totally free. Why not? See you there. Thank you, Megla, for sharing. Marg, it was great to meet you. Yeah, we had a nice little live webinar, and I thought, as always, why not make this some content for the podcast? 410 shows. And I'm walking in downtown KL, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. There's actually a lot of Indians here. It's a very Indian influence. I had so much hot, spicy curry for lunch the other day. So definitely take up offer from Megla. There's also the GFA coupon code. We'll get a little commission, of course, but you also save some money if you make it out to India sourcing trip. I mean, I've heard great things over the years. She's been doing this for a long time. It's great to see Megla and that community grow. India still seems like a very viable option as an alternative to mainland China. Also, Megla will be a speaker at Cross Border Summit. She'll be coming to Thailand in November. She's also sharing a bit there about India and sourcing. We got really a global lineup at Cross Border Summit. We have her, we have people from Japan, from, of course, Southeast Asia, China, all over the US, Europe, Danny from the UK, Mike Hartman, others from Europe. So it's going to be an epic time. So much stuff, you know. I feel like COVID's finally gone. We can finally plan events and meetings and gatherings. So here's a great view if you're watching this. And yeah, I'm going to head into the last day. I'll be at the Nomad Capitalist Live, Andrew Henderson. He was on the podcast recently, had a live webinar with him too, just like Megla. But this is what it's about, building communities, helping other communities, connecting, networking, sharing. And I think I'm about to get some breakfast. So episode 410, Global from Asia, India Sourcing with Megla. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks as always for listening or watching. And let's just keep pushing our limits and making things happen. See you later.
To get more info about running an international business, please visit our website at www.globalfromasia.com. That's www.globalfromasia.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to our iTunes feed. Thanks for tuning in.